On our morning show today from Richland Center School District, we have Steve Board, superintendent for the district, in to join us for his monthly visit. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. It's great to be here. It's a great start to the fall. It's awesome.
School is off and running, and sports-wise, you've had a pretty good start to the year, haven't you?
Boy, yeah, I think we've had a great start to the year in all facets, but when you just kind of look at the sports world, you think about last week just as kind of a snapshot, and what a tremendous week it was for the Hornets and the sports when you have, cross country, winning their meets, our volleyball. I think all three teams swept their matches. Our football team got that huge win down at Lancaster. Been several years since we've beaten Lancaster, let alone on their field. Volleyball turns around and beats Cuba City on Saturday. Our soccer team got a win last week as well. I think we were a clean sweep and just a tremendous week and a tremendous start to the school year. It's not often that I get this on the same night, get a Hornet win against Lancaster and a Charger win against the Chiefs. That's a big day for me. So that was pretty special.
Yes, it was. Other aspects of the start of the school, off to a good start?
Yeah, I tell you, it has been such a great start to the school year. With our open house right before school started, our in-service, talking to just several staff, that it just felt like such a smooth start to the school year. Some claimed it as the best ever. We had an outstanding speaker come in and talk to our staff on the last day of in-service right before our open house. Dr. Joe Sanfilippo was a former superintendent at Fall Creek, and just a tremendous speaker. Really talked about the value of every opportunity that we get makes an impact on people. Right, and of course in the school district we're talking about our impact on students, and those 30-second moments. Like, you don't need to sit down with a student for 90 minutes to be able to make an impact on that student or on that person. You can do that in just short opportunities. And he did several different things throughout his seminar where he had folks, just text somebody that it was important to their life, and then he would bring that back around and bring it full circle. And again, just the ability to say thank you, the ability to be respectful, the ability to understand that you have a way to make a positive influence on folks. Just a tremendous motivational speaker, a tremendous message that he had. Carry that right into our open house, and then students came on that Tuesday after Labor Day, and I think our staff have really taken it to heart. I just see a different vibe in our hallways and in our buildings on what we're doing, right? And we've always had great staff. We've always had wonderful staff and wonderful things going on, but this year feels even better, right? It just feels like there are so many people trying to really, really, truly just take that extra step, thank someone, give a shout out to someone. And that goes a long way. We all like to be told that we're doing a good job, or like to be told thank you. Students the same way, coworkers the same way, and so it's just really been a great start to the school year. And I think it's definitely noticed in our students and our staff and what we're doing, and it's just a fun time to be a Hornet.
It's the first year with the new cell phone policy, and how's that been going over?
It has gone over really, really well. I talked to Mr. Lemke and Mrs. Perkins on Monday this week, just a couple days ago, and said, how did the first day go? What did we really end up with for offenses? How many people violated it? And, was it a bigger issue or a smaller issue than what we thought? Because I have a teenage daughter, and of course you get the rumors from her, like, oh my goodness, we had 20 people got their cell phones taken away and all of that. And so I wanted to get some actual numbers, and Mr. Lemke and Mrs. Perkins said for the entire week, last week, Tuesday through Friday, they had a total of 4 violations, 3 cell phones, 1 AirPod violations, and all of them, were very respectful, turned them in quickly. But the other interesting thing about that, Phil, is that it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do. When you walk down the hallways of Richland Center High School right now, our principals have noticed this, our teachers have noticed it, I've noticed it firsthand, and you look at classrooms, you look through the doors, you look through the windows, and just see what's going on in the classrooms. I'm seeing kids with their heads up, their eyes are forward, they're engaged in the lesson, they're engaged in the learning, and that's exactly what we're trying to do, right? Trying to get students to get away from their phones. We know that it causes mental health with anxiety and things like that. It also makes them disengaged with the world around them, and for the first time in several years, we're seeing students re-engaged in learning, and boy, when we can get them hooked on learning and engaged in the content and the material, providing relevant information for them, that just creates a really, really good culture for our students. I talked to, I don't know, probably no less than 30, 35 students last week. Every one of them, I asked the same thing, how's the cell phone thing going? And every single one of them, every one of the students I talked to about this said, you know what, it's really not that bad. It's kind of nice, except I wish we could have it at lunch. They all gave that little disclaimer.
Well, it's an honest answer.
It is an honest answer, and I felt that it was a genuine answer. And but for them to all recognize, like, you know what, this is actually pretty good that we're not locked into our phones, and I'm actually engaged in the class more. I'm actually talking to my classmates more. That's awesome, right? That's great. I think that's a lesson we can all take from this is that social interaction doesn't have to be through social media, and that person-to-person interaction can really make a difference.
Well, the whole goal is to make people better adults, and honing those people skills. That's kind of a lost art sometimes.
It really is. We become so we live in such an instantaneous world. In the world of social media, we become judged based on likes and thumbs up and shares and those kinds of things, and that's not reality, right? When we get caught up into those kinds of things, we do become overly anxious about the way we look and feel and talk about, and so we always are in a sense of where we're trying to have to justify or one up what we did before, and in reality that's not how the world works, right? We want to develop good, wholesome people, right? People that are respectful, people that can do a good job with whatever that is. They get out into the workforce. Our employers, they want people who are punctual, people who can talk to customers, talk to people, talk to coworkers, be able to have a conversation. And when you're buried in your phone or on a computer, you can't necessarily do that. And of course, we've talked about the harmful effects, especially to teenagers and the prefrontal cortex and the development of the brain. But having students just really getting back to conversing and having conversations is really, really healthy, and I think it makes for better adults when they grow up.
I wanted to ask you about governance. I know you recently had some people in to talk to the board, and you're kind of maybe revamping things. Can you address that?
Absolutely, yeah. So traditional school boards, I'm talking traditional, many school districts across the state and even the country for the past probably 40, 50 decades, the vast majority of them have operated in what's called, kind of a board governance model, where the board makes a lot of decisions, okay? And they make a lot of decisions around operations, okay? And when you think about that model and you really, really dive into it, you think about school boards and you think about boards making decisions on what kind of vehicles to buy or what kind of insurance to buy, or what kind of curriculum to use. Yet these are not the people who are experts in those areas, right? Board members as a general are not experts in curriculum. They're not experts in student learning assessments. Our director of curriculum, Dr. Johnson, is an expert in that. Our admin are experts in their particular areas. But yet so much of board meetings were spent on the operations part of things and not necessarily the outcomes. And so there's been a shift through many school districts, and our school district is going through this right now, into more of what's called a policy governance model. It was written by James Carver in the 70s, and then that has kind of transformed into what's called a coherence governance model, where our board, as representatives of our stakeholders of our community, as it relates to the public school, they represent our community. What does our community want from our public schools? And then our board helps define that through, this is what we want our schools to be. We want our schools to be X, Y, and Z, right? We want to hypothetically increased reading and math scores. We want our students to be well-rounded and ready for the workforce or post-secondary education. And we want to make sure that we have staff that are happy and retain them. Right? Those are broad ideas that reflect what our community wants. And we find that out by going through a strategic planning process. And our board has been committed to, in January, going through a strategic planning process with our community. The last time that this had happened was about 2017. And so we'll be going through this process again to make sure that we fully understand as a school district what our community wants our public school system to be. Okay? And so in the meantime, our board is kind of then shifting to, let's not worry about the operations part of it. Let's worry about what our community wants our schools to be and the outcomes for that. And so in this model, with those hypotheticals, the school board may, as a result of this, they may say something like, administration, we need better reading and math scores. We need to make sure our students are college and career ready, and we need to make sure that we have good staff retention. Those are the three things that we have heard loud and clear from our community. Again, this is just a hypothetical. Possibly that's what they come out with, but this will be driven by the strategic planning process. We don't care how you get there, administration. That's the destination. You have to get us there. And so then administration can use the tools that they have to say, okay, we need to collect some data. Where are we at with reading and math scores? Where's our baseline data? What tools are we going to use to try to move the needle? And then we report that back to the board. And the board then is spending their meetings, more of their meetings, a good chunk of their meetings, talking about those things. They're talking about, okay, where are we at with student outcome? And they're spending time talking about students and staff and the things that are really, really important, and less time talking about, which tires to buy or which workman's comp insurance to buy, right? We have to have those things. We have to have tires on our vehicles. We have to have workman's comp insurance. We have to have all of those kinds of things. But instead of worrying about and spending literally hours in committee meetings or at a board meeting talking about these things, we just need you to find the best price to get the coverage that we need, right? Or get the best tires for the price that we can afford. Take care of it. What we want to focus on is, can our students read and write? Are our students college and career ready? And are we retaining staff, right? And again, those goals are hypotheticals, but that's kind of the idea behind this. And so our board has recently kind of scrapped our committees. We no longer have the committees. And instead, they're spending one board meeting a month and possibly more as we move into this, spending an entire meeting just talking about the governance model and talking about what are the guardrails that the board wants to implement, to be able to say, administration, keep us posted, keep us informed on these things, operate within these guardrails, and you're good to make some decisions. If you start to get outside of the guardrails or you need to go outside of the guardrails, that's still a board decision. We want to maintain that, right? But otherwise, we're going to be fiscally responsible, and you're going to operate within these guardrails. And then the board, as in turn, we're going to spend more time talking about the things that we believe our community really wants us to talk about. And again, that'll happen through the strategic planning process, but student outcomes, student visions, staff retention, those kinds of things. And so it's an interesting shift that's going on here. There's a saying that has gone on through this: whoever makes the decision is held accountable for it. And so there's actually a lot of accountability when it comes to this model. Administration may have to make some decisions on cell phone policies, things like that. If they believe that that's in the best interest of students, then they would do that, but then they would be held accountable for that if that didn't work or if it did work. The board in turn they'd be really focusing on setting these goals to represent the community. So it's an exciting time. It's something that a lot of the forward-thinking school districts around the country are doing. I'm excited to see our board undertake this process. I'm excited for the strategic planning process. I have a vision of what our school district should look like. My neighbor might have a different vision of what our school district is about. In the end, it's a public school. And we need to be able to get some input from our community and the employers in our community and the stakeholders of our community to determine what does that look like. And so this is what the strategic planning process will look like. And then our board will take that information and say, okay, here's what we heard loud and clear. This is what we want our school to do, to look like. And administration, now we're going to hold you accountable to make that happen. And I think it's an exciting process, and it gets us back to focused on what matters most, and that's students and staff.
Basically, you and anybody who's in administration, then you still answer to the board, but you do your job, right?
Absolutely, and that's always the fear for a board member or community member is like, well, what do you mean? What if the administration buys the wrong kinds of tires, right? Those kinds of things. Then you hold them accountable for that, right? And do we really want to spend 40 minutes talking about tires, or do we want to spend 40 minutes talking on student learning and student outcomes? And so by kind of shifting it, like, okay, administration, you do your job, and then board will represent the community. Often we get them flipped around a lot. And so this really allows schools to take off and really do some really, really positive things. Now with that, there has to be trust, right? Our community still has to trust our board. Administration have to trust one another. We don't want a bunch of I gotchas, right? Because we want to be able to try new things. We've started alternative schools, right? Those may be a huge success, which they appear to be on initially, but they might also be an epic failure. That doesn't mean people should lose their job or that things were awful because we tried something that didn't work, right? We want to be able to still have trust that we're working towards what's best for students and trying to address those student needs. But in the end, you give a little bit of leeway into how it gets there. The analogy that they use is the board will pick the destination, administration will pick the route that we're going to take to get there, right? And we've all punched destinations into our GPS. It'll give you 4 or 5 different routes, and we choose which one we want based on what situation we're currently in, roads being closed, detours, things like that. So administration will get us to the destination. As long as that's where the destination that the board wants us to be at, everybody's happy and we all move forward, and we're doing what's best for our community.
When does this kick in then? Is it right away, or is it a gradual process?
It's definitely a gradual process, and it's an ongoing process that will happen forever, right? It's never, ever done. So we're kind of dabbling in it right now in terms of setting the groundwork for our board, setting the parameters. Our board is having some great discussion about what is in the jurisdiction of the board, what should be in the jurisdiction of administration, and then how are we going to make sure that administration stays within those guardrails, and what do we need reported back to the board? Because the last thing that we want, we've worked so hard to develop some transparency and trust. I think we've gotten that with our community in a lot of ways. We don't want that to dissolve, right? We want to still make sure that the information is out there for our community, that our community hears about the things that are going on in our school, and not just a bunch of rubber stamping behind the scenes. We still want that out there. That's important. But the information can be delivered in different ways. It can be delivered in pre-recorded information that's in our board meetings for the public to be able to view later. It can still be given in the form of information, but the vast majority of those board meetings are spent talking about those things that are important to the board. So we're starting that groundwork now. This coming January, early February, we're going to start the strategic planning process. Hopefully by the spring, then we've heard from our community and we have some very common themes into what our community as a whole wants from our public school. We can then develop, 3 or 4 really, really solid SMART goals, something that's measurable, something that's attainable, and something that's data-driven for our school. And then by the start of July 1 of next year, we're hoping to have those goals in place. And then it's this ongoing maintenance, ongoing evaluation, ongoing reporting to the board to see, are we moving the needle on these things? A small example we've talked over the last couple of years is open enrollment, trying to change the open enrollment swing. We have so many students that had left our school district to go elsewhere. And so by providing some of these alternative choices, things like that, we're starting to bring some of those students back. That's one thing, right? That's just one piece of data that is ongoing. Is it ever going to end? No, we're always going to want to try to get better at that. But that's just one type of thing that could happen. So again, crazy excited about it. The school districts that have been doing it, some of them are in year 1, some of them are in year 12. They're all still learning. And every year things change and they're constantly evaluating. Once they reach a certain goal, the goal may change. The goal may need to be reflected or changed slightly. They may need to go through another strategic planning process because things happen in a community that change what you want your school to look like, right? You may have factories shut down. You may have housing that developed. And so that may change the dynamics of your school and what our community wants from its school. So it's important to continue to hear from our community as well.
Sounds good. What about enrollment? It's the third Friday of the month check, right? So that's probably coming up next week then?
Yeah, the September 19th is the big day for all school districts in Wisconsin. That's what drives revenue and the ability for a school district to see how much money it can use to educate students. And so that's the official count. We are really, really excited about where we're at. Of course, we're always cautiously optimistic at this time of the year because until that third Friday count actually happens, there's just there's more speculation. We don't really know exactly all of the data. We do know that in the 2 weeks prior to school, that we took on over 50 new enrollments, and from the end of school last year, we took on 80 plus new enrollments. We just had 2 more enroll yesterday. We had 2 more enroll last Friday, and so we're continuing to get more students either moving into our district, coming back to our district, people who are seeing some of the great things that our district's doing, and maybe we're homeschooling now, trying to do this. Maybe we're going somewhere else and now coming back to the Richland School District. A lot can change between now and the third Friday count, but as it sits right now, when you compare this year's open enrollment data to last year's, our open enrollment out is down 37%, which is a huge number for us. That's certainly something that we need to address. Again, there are some things in there that it's just a snapshot in time, right? We could have people fill out open enrollment requests, tomorrow, or we could have them, fill out open enrollment in. But we think our enrollment's up. We think our open enrollment out is down, and those are 2 big telling points on what we believe our school district's doing, and we think we're doing a lot of things the right way, and we think it's being reflected on people's choices on coming to the Richland School District.
Our guest today, Steve Board, Richland School District Superintendent, and we'll have more coming up on The Morning Show. Steve Board is our guest in studio today on The Morning Show from WRCO on this Wednesday. Well, I was covering soccer last night. I got a bird's eye view of the concession stand. It looks like it's coming right along.
It is coming along. They've got the trusses up. There was a little bit of hiccup with the trusses. Turns out that the blueprints that we have, when that concession stand was built, the actual concession portion of it out front, facing the bleachers, is 24 inches larger than the blueprints. And so when they ordered the trusses, they ordered them off the blueprints. And so then there are about 8 trusses that are 24 inches short, so they don't span the full distance. So engineers are working it out. We're hoping to be able to have a solution here on either getting new trusses and having them early next week to be able to finish that up, or to be able to come up with an engineering plan to be able to use the existing trusses but extend them a little bit further. With that being said, we were hoping and optimistic that this Friday for our home football game we would be able to have the concession stand open. That's not going to happen. We'll have a very similar situation to what we had against Viroqua early in the year, where we've got a tent, and actually this is a great time to just give a huge shout out. With all the construction and then the concession stand going on, there are so many folks behind the scenes that are helping to make things happen, from our custodial crew getting things ready for open house at the primary school. If you'd have went into the primary school on Tuesday morning, there was no power, and there were things in the hallway, and there's dust all over the place. And then fast forward 48, 56 hours later, we've got open house and the place looks immaculate. Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes things going on there. Same is true for concessions and things going on to run events, not just for our varsity football games, but for all of the events that are going on up there. Laura Selgaby, our activities director, our food service department, our custodial and maintenance crew, they are working so diligently on trying to make the event still something that's really special and be able to offer the amenities that we would like to offer during those events when we don't have a building. And so we won't have a building this Friday. We're hoping that we can get the concession stand enclosed for the 19th. very, very optimistic that by homecoming we'll be able to be in there. The full building may not be turned over to us by then, but just seems like one little hiccup after another. But it's like what we do in life. We just troubleshoot. We find a problem. We try to solve it and move on to the next. So it's exciting that it's getting done. There's definitely been some big progress made. It's starting to take shape again, but it can't happen soon enough.
Now, speaking of homecoming, that'll happen before the next time you come back to see us. But that's coming up right around the bend, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's really about the perfect time of year. You know, you don't want homecoming too soon, right? Where you get it that third week in September, which we've had it a few times. Students are just getting into a routine, and then you've got this crazy week that just disrupts everything. By the same token, you don't want it so late in the fall that weather starts to really become an issue, and it's just problematic. So I always think that last week in September, first week in October is really, really the prime time, and that's exactly when it is. Homecoming week will start September 29th. All of our buildings and all of our students will get to partake in several of the internal homecoming events that go on, from dress-up days to the different class wars, things like that. There'll be a lot of different home events from, again, all of our fall sports, soccer, volleyball, JV football, cross country, all of those things will be going on that week. Of course, the Friday night football game, the parade on Friday, October 3rd. The parade will be at 2:55. There'll be an early out opportunity for our students to be able to go down to the parade and watch that, hoping for wonderful weather, an opportunity to see our students showcasing their skills, whether it be in the marching band or on a float representing one of the sports or activities that we have, or one of the community floats that so many of our students are involved in as well. And then outstanding alumni gets recognized that afternoon, starting at 5:30 in the West Commons, and then the football game that night, again with our homecoming, our court, our outstanding alumni, all of those things are going on. Finishes up on Saturday night with the homecoming dance. And so just a really, really incredible week for our students and our community and anybody who has ever been a part of Richland Center. Alumni come back. It's just a wonderful, wonderful time for our community and our school to really come together and embrace the Hornet pride that we all know and love.
I know you have a community forum coming up the school will be involved in later this month.
Yeah, that will also be on that Monday the 29th. This will be our third community forum. A community forum we hold down at the Phoenix Center in the banquet center down there. They've been gracious enough to let us use that. And this is an event where we get many of the stakeholders in our community. The city is represented. Mayor Coppernall has been down there, our city administrator as well. The county has been represented there. I know that I just talked to Tricia Clemens here recently. I believe she's going to be there as well. Perhaps the county president on the board. Simons is usually represented. The school district is represented as well. And it's an opportunity for our community to see all of those entities working together to get an update on where we're at with different things that are important and affecting our community right now. If you remember, maybe the first one a couple years ago was an opportunity for the school district to really get in front of a lot of people and explain the why and why we need a referendum, where we're at with our financial situation, where we're at with our buildings. And that was a kickstart to that, and I directly relate to the ability to have that pass as a result of those community forums that we had. Our second one, was a little update on the campus and where we were at with some of the city stuff. This 29th will be a similar situation where all of the groups will get an opportunity to give an update. It starts at 6 o'clock on the 29th at the Phoenix Center. And then there's an opportunity to ask questions. There's a question and answer period. Ron Fruit typically MCs it, and he will be able to read the questions, and the folks that can answer it will try to answer it right in front of everyone. And so I think it's been a really, really good way for our public to not only see the different parts of city government working together, or the government working together, school, county, city, but also to get some of those pressing questions answered on where we're at with some things. And I just think it's really, really good for transparency and trust for our community, and something that I would encourage everyone to attend. I think we were close to 100 people at the last one that we had, so I'm hoping to have that same turnout on the 29th.
Will the district be using the campus gym then this year?
We are using the campus gym. We've used it already several times. It's been great to be able able to work with the county on getting that MOU in place. We've used the soccer field off to the west several times. We've used the gym several times. It's just been tremendous burden relief to have that extra space, the green space, as well as the gym space. We've got the gym at the intermediate school, but we have that after school STING program, and so that takes up a lot of our gym space and our ability to use that. And so having the campus gym right there, so close for our students, our 7th and 8th graders can walk over for a volleyball match, or our freshman JV can walk over for a practice, or whatever it might be. Having that available and having it available as a community resource has been wonderful.
Wonderful. And people will be getting taxes, looking at assessments here in the coming days, right?
Yeah. So, of course, we all get that lovely Christmas card in December with our property tax bill. But recently, many of the folks, if not all, in the city received their new assessment value. And so as a school district and one of the taxing agencies, every property tax bill is typically made up of about 4 taxing agencies, right? There's the local municipality, whether it's the city of Richland Center or the township of Buena Vista or Willow, or the village of Boaz, or whatever it might be. There's that local agency. Then there's the Richland County, which has a tax on it. The school district, the resident school district. So whether that's the Richland School District, the Ithaca School District, the Riverdale School District, whatever it might be. And then there's a resident technical college as well. And so for most of people in this listing area, it's Southwest Tech. And those 4 taxing agents all have a levy that they submit and need to be able to collect to be able to operate. And so oftentimes when there's an assessment done, and I certainly don't want to speak on behalf of the city. I'm not an expert of city municipality finance, but I do have a general understanding as how it relates to the school district and generally how it works. But when people get an assessment and they see, my assessment went from $150,000 before, and now my assessment is at $300,000, right? And so they immediately think, well, that means my taxes are going to double because my property value doubled. And that's not the case. Again, there are probably a few disclaimers or a few exceptions to this, but generally speaking, the assessed value or the equalized value or the fair market value, whichever one of those is being used, that's not the amount of tax that you pay. That's simply how the taxes are divided up, okay? And so the school district, if they're saying to the city of Richland Center, we need you to collect $10 million in taxes, and you divide that up over all the people in the city of Richland Center, okay? The school district's going to collect that $10 million, whether there's one home, whether there's 1,000 homes, or whether there's 10,000 homes, all right? And whether or not people's assessed value goes up or down or changes, the school district's only going to collect so much money, that exact same amount of money. It's just how it gets distributed that changes, okay? And so very, very simple example, just for illustration. Let's say the school district's going to collect $100 in taxes, and you and I are the only 2 homes in a municipality. 10 years ago, we might both have a home that's worth $150,000, and so the city says, okay, we have 2 homes, the Phil Nee home, the Steve Board home, they're each worth $150,000. We're going to each person's going to pay the exact same amount of tax. They each pay $50. Okay, 10 years later, they reassess it. We've both done some improvements to our home. Home values are higher. Your home now is assessed at $400,000. Mine's at $600,000. Yours doubles. Mine triples. Okay, school district's still only going to collect $100 in taxes. So they use the percentage. Now I'm going to pay $60. Even though your assessed value doubles, you're actually only going to pay $40. School district is still getting the $100. It's just how it's divided up. I know that's a very simple example, but I don't want people out there to think that just because their assessed value went up a significant amount, that means that their taxes are going to go up. Each of the municipalities have what's called a revenue limit, right? The school district literally refers to it as a revenue limit that's driven by enrollment. For the county or the city, those limits may be determined not by enrollment per se, but it might be based on new construction or net new construction. And so they have limits on what they can tax. They can't just arbitrarily say we're just going to now tax everybody, $5 million more because we want to pay people more. They can't do that. There's a limit to it. And so those are set by the state, those limits. And so the assessments or the values of the home, that's really just a way to distribute the tax amongst the people. And so I think that's really important for people to know. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit on the 29th as we get those entities involved. But we don't want people to freak out and say, my assessed value doubled and therefore my taxes are going to double, because that's likely not the case.
All right, sounds good. Always good stuff, Steve.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Here's to a good school year, and we'll see you around homecoming time, and of course back here in October for your next visit.
Be great. We're excited for it.
You bet.
Thank you.
Steve Board, Richland District Administrator, Superintendent for our morning show here in September. We'll have more coming up in a moment.